Welcome to Dr. Cindy Speaks, regular musings and reflections on politics, current events. Dr. Cindy Banyai is a mom and small business owner fighting for our water, our health, our community. She's running for the people of Southwest Florida, trying to flip Florida 19 from red to blue. Listen as she speaks truth to power.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Dr. Cindy Banyai with Dr. Cindy Speaks, and I am continuing on with my promise to bring out and lift the voice of as many candidates as I can. So we started this in the 2024 cycle, and I'm continuing it on here for the 2025 and then the 2026. I did the special elections as well. But we are continuing with those candidate interviews. And today we have Samuel Chambers with us here today. Hi, Samuel.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so wonderful. So tell us a little bit about the race that you are running, and then tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So my name is Samuel Chambers, and I'm running for Orlando City Council, District 3. If you're familiar with the Orlando area, District 3 lies from the west in Rosemont, going to the east in Baldwin Park, lying entirely north of Colonial Drive. So a little bit about me. I'm an Orlando native and a native to District 3. I've lived here my entire life. And I am running, like I said, for Orlando City Council. I'm currently the chairman of the Orange Soil and Water Conservation District. So soil and water supervisors are something you get to vote for. It's towards the end of the ballot, but that is something you do vote for, and I am that person. Some of the issues I care about are putting workers first, investing in transit accessibility, protecting green space, stopping urban sprawl, housing security, and more.
All right. Okay, so that's really great. As you may have known, I also ran for city council here in Fort Myers, and I've ran for Congress, and I've run for a lot of different offices, but there's always been a special place in my heart for local municipal politics, because I think that is what affects the quality of life for everyday folks all the time. And so tell me, you said that you were a native to District 3 and that's what you're running for. So tell us some of the things that are happening in District 3 that you want to improve upon or that make that district unique.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I am a native to District 3, and I have gone door to door in the district and talked with many neighbors about the issues they are concerned about. It's funny, you can actually, if you're ever riding around the city with me, I'll point out like, oh, we're in this neighborhood, their major issue is this. So, for example, oh, we're in Rosemont. Their major issue is they have a development that's being planned on the defunct golf course that's there, and the people really want to protect their green space. You go over to the Lake Formosa neighborhood. One of their issues are making sure the streets are safe for pedestrians and cyclists. You go over into the Audubon Park area. It's about how can we improve the road that goes through there called Curran Drive and make that, again, safer for pedestrians and cyclists and slow the speed of traffic. So those are just a couple of issues that are main concerns in the different areas of the district.
Wow. You're talking my language. So I got my start as a bicycle and pedestrian safety advocate here in Southwest Florida. I had moved here from Japan, where it's super easy to get around. There's people who cycle everywhere. There are trains and buses, and people are walking. Almost all the neighborhoods in Japan are walkable to almost every, everyday amenity that you would need: a post office, grocery store, things like that. But I was really shocked when I came to Florida specifically, and that was not something that we really had. So I really wanted to work to make my community a bicycle and pedestrian friendly area as well. So you mentioned that for a couple of the neighborhoods in your district. So what kind of ideas have you heard or that you are looking to implement to make those communities more bicycle and pedestrian friendly?
Well, so if we're talking about the also in the area, College Park, there's a road that runs through it called Edgewater Drive, and they being the city, are currently planning a redevelopment for that roadway. But what exists there currently is bike lanes, which, if you ask me, and you probably know, are kind of the bare minimum when it comes to cyclist infrastructure. Not only is the city not considering a protected bike lane or bike path, they're actually just getting rid of the existing bike lanes that are already there. So that's a concern that I have, and will stand up for the cyclist community in our district. Some places, like when I was talking about Lake Formosa, it really is the people there that say, we just want a sidewalk around the lake, and they don't have one. And so looking into ensuring that people are able to either walk or even bike from there's the businesses that exist on Orange Avenue to where there's actually a bike trail, that there's actually a bridge that crosses over Lake Formosa called the Urban Trail. And so what I say is, I believe in protecting green space. So the only concrete I like to see is for sidewalks, bike lanes, and bike paths.
Yeah, well, that's really important. And especially if you're considering that the economic impact that sidewalks and walkable communities can have as well. I think this is often overlooked, but once you slow traffic down, and that means, lower speed limits, but also having foot traffic, that is where local businesses thrive. And I think that I loved how you said you wanted to connect those walkable spaces to the local business district, because that is so important. Also, I really love to see what we call multimodal transportation, right? So that each road is built as we call a complete street, and that it has space for cars, protected bike lanes, and proper sidewalk infrastructure so that it's convenient and comfortable for people to walk around as well.
I agree. When people talk about, or when I talk about transit accessibility, I don't just mean when it comes to the trains or the buses. I mean for pedestrians, microtransit, so scooters or bikes, things like that.
Wonderful. Yeah. And this is, like I said, big area that I have worked on for years. Find it so important, adds value to communities. So it's so important for your property values, because it helps through neighborhoods and through those communities. And it helps keep people safe. And I don't know if you know this, but Orlando is one of the most dangerous cities in the country when it comes to bicycle and pedestrian safety.
I know firsthand. I've been hit by a car twice living here.
Oh my goodness, that's awful. So yeah, you're aware of that. I mean, Florida itself is bad, and I live in Lee County, and we're up there for our per capita bicycle and pedestrian safety accidents with injury or death. But yeah, Orlando usually takes the cake. So I know that not only your local population, but your tourist populations, right, and people that come in and want to experience your beautiful city would be much appreciative of those types of amenities as well. So aside from that kind of stuff, because obviously I could talk about bicycle and pedestrian safety for a very long time, but there are surely other issues. Talk a little bit more about why green space has risen as a top concern for you.
Well, green space was the main concern in not only Rosemont, the neighborhood, where they have a defunct golf course that currently is not usable. and there's no really main places for recreation in that neighborhood. It's also a working class neighborhood. Um, so a lot of the people were concerned that when the city was or is considering developing on this land, making sure that there is usable green space available for the people to enjoy. Also, that I think protecting green space gets into urban sprawl as well, and that I, as the soil and water supervisor in Orange County, worked with uh, the CRC. So the CRC stands for the Charter Review Commission, and other individuals trying to get what was called or is called the rural boundary passed to limit urban sprawl in Orange County. So the reason why I care about that is not even from an environmental perspective, right? Because if you're taking away natural land, that's habitat destruction. Another concern is sprawl is just costly, right? You got to pay to build new infrastructure to go out further and further away from the city core. Whereas if you do infill projects in the urban core, that is, it helps continue to use the existing infrastructure and allow additional revenue that is received from the growing population to help improve that existing infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying is so important. And it's a message that is often lost because most people think of the sprawl issue as kind of like a development issue, right? Like it's like, oh, it's just the big developers and they're trying to do X, Y, and Z. And then you throw your environmentalist folks and then you throw your bicycle and pedestrian people in and mix, and it's kind of like a big old, NIMBY sandwich. But what you're talking about is actually something so much more important. And that's a fundamental rethinking about how we do development in cities. I don't know. Are you familiar with strong towns?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. That's great. So I'm going to tell my listeners a little bit about Strong Towns and Charles Marone. And that is the concept of revitalizing our communities through revitalizing our downtown areas and our existing infrastructure, so that we can have what they describe as per acre value increases, as opposed to building out brand new infrastructure without the tax base for it that is inevitably going to become a burden on the municipality itself. It's going back to the idea of this original growth model, like where we have to cities are being responsive to people as they're coming in and they're growing, and we have to rethink the way that we do zoning in some ways, and we have to rethink how we're going to actually pay for that aging infrastructure. And rather than going out and building brand new stuff out on the outskirts of a city where it had always been a higher risk investment because of the density, and that is inevitably going to lose value faster than anywhere else. You go down to your city centers and places that have high population and commercial density, and you start looking at adding value to those places. So that includes refurbishment, that includes redevelopment, that includes infill, that includes green spaces like you've been talking about as well, so that we can increase that value per acre instead of making the city bigger and ultimately more expensive. Do you want to talk a little bit about strong towns? Because listen, the times that you meet somebody who's familiar with this concept are very few and far between.
I mean, if that's the route you want to go down, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. So, is that the vision that you have for your district and Orlando, is to become a more compact and complete city? And how you're going to do that? Because the other thing that I always came across when we're talking about strong towns and this type of infill is that there is a balance, like I said, between the NIMBYs and the developers, and basically what looks on paper sometimes to be like a new shiny thing for the city to have. So how are you going to get people to believe in this vision?
Well, I think I'm not I'm not going to be the person to say that, oh, we're going to go into existing neighborhoods and, you know, tear everything down and rebuild. So that's not a concern people should have. But in District 3 specifically, I feel as though there are uh, two areas that could benefit from this. If people are familiar with Orlando, it would be the new up and coming packing district, which is mostly industrial um, area that is being redeveloped into a walkable, bikeable neighborhood. Also, we have a mall called Fashion Square that is, just generally around the country, malls have kind of become less significant in terms of where people go and shop. And
Mhm.
so you have this area with a large empty parking lot, essentially, that could be used for the type of infill that I'm talking about. It doesn't even have to be just in District 3, but it's, city council members make decisions for the city as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, parking minimums are something that is definitely needs to be reconsidered, and the
Oh, yeah.
rezoning areas and multi-use zoning areas.
And as the soil and water supervisor, I actually wrote a resolution that was passed by our board asking the cities and the county to reconsider parking minimums because, as you know, a lot of times those minimums are made arbitrarily
Right.
without much forethought to them. And it not only creates the empty space, because I'm sure many of you who are listening have gone to a shopping center where half the parking lot is always empty.
Yep.
And also, when we're talking about development, the developers got to pay for that additional parking, and that's going to pass cost down to the renters, making housing less affordable.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. So, as you were talking about your experience on the soil and water, we didn't actually go much into you as a person and your experience. So, as we're rounding out this interview, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of tie that into why it is that you think you'll be a great city council person?
Of course. So, like I mentioned before, I've lived in the district my entire life. If you're familiar with it, I went to St. Charles Catholic school, and then I moved to Edgewater High School, became an Eagle Scout in College Park, played basketball there as well. I got a bachelor's and master's degree in political science at Florida State University. And now, currently, I am teaching government at the local community college, Valencia, where I teach state and local government as well as U.S. government, where I teach students the best practices our local governments can take to help make better cities. And then I also am on the Soil and Water Board. I'm the chair of the Soil and Water Board, which also a fact about that is it's a volunteer position. We don't get paid for it, so it's a thankless job that I am glad to fill the role of and continue to fight for protecting green space. For I actively pick up garbage off the side of the road every weekend, pretty much. So I do that as soil and water supervisor, actively making sure our parks, our streets, our lakes are clean and litter free. So that's just a little bit about me personally, and the reason why I'm running. It kind of gets into my slogan, which is showing up for you. And over the past couple years, I've continued to show up to community events, cleanups, speaking at City Hall, as well as serving on the Soil and Water Board. And I kind of looked around and said, all right, who's going to step up to the plate to, serve this community? And at the time, the just seemed as though all the fingers were pointing towards me. So that's the reason why I decided to file this past January.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell everybody where they can find more information about you and what else do you need for your campaign?
Of course, you can always find more information about me at my website, Chambers, FOR, Orlando.com. My social media handle is Chambers4, the number 4, so Chambers4 O-Town. And you can research more about me there, my policies, what District 3 looks like if you live in District 3, as well as making a donation if you'd be so generous, because unfortunately we can't support this district and win in November if we don't have the funds to get signs, flyers, and go out and communicate with neighbors in the district.
Yes, absolutely. And we can find the fundraising information on your website. Is that right?
Yes, you go to chambers4orlando.com and there will be a menu item that says donate. Click on that and you'll be sent to my Act Blue page.
Perfect. And I just want to give a pitch for municipal candidates like Samuel here. It really makes a difference when you donate to those folks. And because, $10, $20, $5 goes a long way. These are smaller areas. And so your donation can really go far. They often don't get the attention that statewide or federal candidates get. And so they don't get the funds coming in that the bigger races get. So we need to focus on these areas because we need to get good candidates in there that are working for the people, and every dollar matters to candidates who are working in that area. So I want to say thank you so much to Samuel Chambers for coming on here. And this has been Dr. Cindy Speaks, and I've been your host, Dr. Cindy Banyai. So thanks so much for joining me here, and I would love for you to check out my show and support us here at Big Mouth Media at bigmouthmediafl.com. If you go to the plans and pricing page, you'll be able to get a monetary contribution to support us in our work providing progressive media to the state of Florida. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dr. Cindy Speaks. If you'd like to learn more about her, go to cindybanyai.com or connect with her directly at vote@cindybanyai.com. We love connecting with people.